Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Today, we take a deep dive into a growing political wave that's stirring both national and continental attention, one centered on none other than President Cyril Ramaphosa. A recent groundswell of public support is rising around the president, especially following his widely discussed appearance at the African Continental Leadership Summit in Addis Ababa. And it's not just support from South Africans, it's coming from leaders, activists, and everyday citizens across the continent who now hail him as a true leader committed to Africa's collective destiny. Across social media platforms, the phrase "listen to the real president" has exploded in popularity. You'll find it in trending hashtags, in the comment sections of Pan-African content, and echoed in community discussions. Why? Because in a time of global turbulence and fractured continental politics, Ramaphosa's recent address at the summit offered something many believe has been sorely lacking in African leadership: a clear, principled, and Pan-African voice. At the African Continental Leadership Summit, President Ramaphosa spoke with a tone of urgency, yet hope. His message was simple, but powerful: Africa must unite, cooperate, and forge its own path. No longer should we allow foreign interests, whether from the West, the East, or anywhere in between, to dictate the pace, direction, or spirit of our development. He called for deeper regional integration through the African Continental Free Trade Area, known as AfCFTA, a landmark initiative designed to eliminate trade barriers, encourage cross-border commerce, and establish a continent-wide economic zone. For many, AfCFTA represents a long overdue chance for African nations to trade with each other on more equitable terms, grow African industries, and reduce reliance on imports from Europe, America, or China. But it wasn't just economic policy that earned the president applause. It was the broader vision, one that placed African dignity, autonomy, and resilience at the center of development. Political analyst Linda Dlamini summarized it best when she said, "He speaks with clarity, conviction, and purpose." At a time when global powers are pulling Africa in different directions, he is reminding us that Africa must chart its own course. Ramaphosa's speech has struck a chord with ordinary citizens too, particularly young people and entrepreneurs who feel frustrated by the slow pace of transformation. One small business owner from Durban put it simply: he's not just talking about South Africa, he's talking about the whole of Africa. That's the kind of leadership we need, visionary and rooted in our shared future. And it's true, Ramaphosa's words did not center South Africa alone. Instead, he consistently spoke in the plural: we, as Africans, our continent, our shared prosperity. In a political landscape where so many leaders still act according to national self-interest, this was a noticeable and refreshing shift. Some critics argue that Ramaphosa's bold continental rhetoric may not yet match South Africa's domestic reality, where unemployment, service delivery failures, and load shedding continue to erode public trust. But others say that it is precisely in times of national difficulty that a bold and unifying foreign policy is most necessary. By anchoring South Africa's identity in the broader African project, Ramaphosa may be betting on something bigger than electoral gains. He may be investing in legacy. There's also a symbolic importance to where this message was delivered: Addis Ababa, the seat of the African Union. Historically, Addis has hosted some of the continent's most consequential declarations, from the Organization of African Unity's founding in 1963, to post-colonial declarations of solidarity and liberation. By positioning South Africa at the center of this tradition, Ramaphosa's speech seems to say, we have a role to play in leading Africa, but not by dominance, rather by example. Observers note that South Africa's foreign policy under Ramaphosa has taken a more principled turn in recent years. From calling out global vaccine inequality during the COVID-19 pandemic, to championing the rights of Palestinians and Africans in the diaspora, Ramaphosa has not shied away from controversial global positions. These stances may have irked certain Western allies, but they've also earned him respect across many parts of Africa and the global South. This, combined with renewed efforts at home to root out corruption, restore state institutions, and reform key sectors, is helping reframe South Africa as a credible and stabilizing voice on the continent. In the words of one analyst, it's not just that he's saying the right things, it's that he's backing them with action, slowly but surely. And there is urgency. As conflicts in Sudan, instability in parts of the Sahel, and coups in West Africa threaten to undo years of progress, many believe that Africa desperately needs a new moral center, a leadership model that balances strength with diplomacy, national interests with Pan-African solidarity. Ramaphosa's vision, whether it fully materializes or not, may be one of the most credible efforts toward that goal in recent memory. Some voices, particularly among the youth, have called for more funding for AfCFTA implementation, more cross-border education opportunities, and more mobility for African entrepreneurs. Others urge Ramaphosa to match his foreign vision with a more radical stance on debt relief, land reform, and energy policy at home. But even critics admit his leadership at the summit has reignited a continental conversation that was long overdue. The president's speech is now being discussed in university lecture halls, in taxi ranks, at business forums, and in Pan-African WhatsApp groups. He may not have solved all of Africa's problems in one speech, but he did something perhaps more important. He gave people permission to dream again, to imagine an Africa that defines its own future, unbound by colonial legacies or geopolitical handouts. This, more than anything, is why the phrase "listen to the real president" has gained so much traction. It's not just a meme. It's a cry of recognition. A signal that, finally, someone in power is speaking the language of the people and of the continent. So the question now becomes, what next? Will this be a fleeting moment of praise, or will it evolve into a larger political movement? Will Ramaphosa continue to deepen ties with African neighbors, or will domestic challenges pull him back into the trenches of national crisis management? Time will tell. But for now, one thing is clear: a new kind of African leadership is on the rise. One that's humble, visionary, cooperative, and unafraid to speak with boldness on the global stage. What are your thoughts on President Ramaphosa's address and the growing public support for his Pan-African vision? Do you believe this marks a true turning point for the continent? Or do you think it's just political theater? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching, and as always, see you next time.